Brothers and sisters, have you seen the light? Well, I have. This video is about light, and in particular UV shortwave radiation, right? And how it can be used in our favor, right? Okay, a lot of the time it's just sun cream and burning us, but it can help you catch fish. This is just a generalized explanation of what's going on with the sun. So please don't write in, Professor, okay? This video is not supposed to be long and punishing. It's just supposed to convey some information that people will find useful to catch some fish wherever they are in the world, right? Either all the way up north, all the way down south, or right in the middle at the equator. This applies. It's as simple as that. And it's an actual fact, okay? And this is all you need to know to catch fish. Shallow, deep, cloudy, sunny, at dawn or at dusk. This applies. So I hope it helps out. So let's go. So depending on your location on Earth and the time of year, there will be less or more white light. But the light that I'm most interested in, especially in the Northern Hemisphere and indeed all the way up inside the Arctic Circle, is UV light. Whether it's spring, summer or winter, it doesn't matter. It is always there to assist me, because it has more energy than the other light sources and penetrates the water more deeply. And we can use it to our benefit with UV reactive pigments. That's it, basically speaking. Whether it's flash or paint. This is not going to be an in-depth explanation about solar radiation or anything like that. It's just what jigs to fish, when and where, that's it, right? And how you can increase your chances of catching more fish by applying this knowledge. That's it. Here I have two jigs, right? They're very cheap, right? These are, I don't know, £1 each, €1.50, whatever. This one here is shiny and blue, and this one here is black and red. Depending on what you've heard and who you've talked to and who you've watched, you might have heard shiny lures on a bright day and colourful lures on a dark day. Well, it can't really be boiled down to that, but I will elaborate. If I had a choice and I only had two jigs to fish in Norway and you gave me a choice, I'd fish these two here. Now I can't have one jig that does all, I can only have two, and I would pick these ones here, right? And just say I had shallow water and deep water next to each other, and I would have to split these up, right? I'd have to fish this one in the shallow water and I'd have to fish this one in the deep water, okay? You're going to say, why, Billy? Because this one is visible under white light, okay? And this one is visible under UV light. Okay, right, that's it, simply. These are not expensive jigs, right? And a lot of times I run out of the good jigs I have and I have to go hunting for cheap ones. And these are some that I found in Norway, right? This one has a UV coating on it, but it is not intentional, right? Because it would cost a lot more, and it would say on the packet. If people go to the trouble of doing that, right, it will say so on the packet because they're trying to sell you something. But as it goes, some pigments, like this one here, are UV reactive regardless. All fluorescent paints, like your spray paints, are UV reactive regardless, right? And this is something that you can apply to your fishing. Like I have mine, especially since I've started making my own jigs. And this is actually somewhere where this video is actually going. So now we've established the two different types of jigs. This is just an example. Okay, we just put it this way. White light does not penetrate the water as deeply as UV light, because UV light is a shortwave light. It has more energy behind it, although it's not as visible, right? It has a lot more energy and penetrates the water a lot more deeply. And this is particularly true in Norway, right? For instance. Now I'm going to draw a little diagram here so I can explain this, right? It's going to have the sun and it's going to have the earth. Sun, right? Right here. And here we have the earth. And the sun's rays travel across. And if you're at the equator, you get a much stronger blast of white light, and it will penetrate the water more deeply. And so you can fish this type of flashy jig to greater depths in the water. For instance, if you're up in Norway, you get more glancing blow. And from morning to evening, some lights will have more influence depending on the depth of the water, right? So in the middle of the day, white light will penetrate the water more deeply, but not very deep at all. We're talking maybe 10 meters, right? And then towards the evening or in the morning, it will penetrate perhaps only as deep as 5 meters. So You're going to fish shallow water, fish this one. Fish this one in the middle of the day. If you're going to fish deep water in the middle of the day, fish this one. If you're going to fish a jig towards the evening or in the morning, fish this one. They react to UV light no matter what the depth. If the light is low, they will still react. And despite what you might think about UV light, right, and the UV pigments in general, UV also is reactive with dark colors as well. They will also fluoresce, but become another color. For instance, like this lure here has got black on the top, right? On a dull day, this is catching fish for me a lot more than this, right? Even though this one is shiny and this one is shiny, but this one has a trick, and I will demonstrate it to you. And also his brethren here, right? He's pink on the top, silver on the bottom. Why don't you see this, right? Now you think if you're going to shine a UV light in that, it's not going to do very much. Well, I'm going to demonstrate this for you, just to prove a point, right? Everything is not what it seems. For instance, this is black. Let's see. The lure on the left is the lure with the black on the top of it. Now, if you look at it now, it's no longer black, right? This one here had pink on the top. It's also no longer pink. So I'm going to turn them over just for the giggles. It's actually the same on the other side, right? Okay. Now I'm going to take that sheep jig I showed you. Now, like I said, the paint on this is not intentional. Right? So this is my point I'm getting at, right? I'll show you those other lures when I turn back on the light, okay? Like I said, it looks pretty dull and black, but in a fish's eyes, in low light, that's what they see, basically. Maybe I should do the flashy one just to make a point as well, okay? And what you're seeing here is the violet light, like the color of the UV light that is created here. It actually doesn't look like this in reality. It's invisible, but this torch produces this purple color which is being reflected back. It's not UV reactive, okay? So that's a demonstration of the fact the colors, they're not the way they seem. For instance, if you take this lamp here and you go down onto a beach in the nighttime, and for instance, you find a crab, though they're green and they're boring and they're brown or whatever, they have a substance inside their shells, it's called creatine, and it fluoresces under this light as well. Also, some seaweeds as well fluoresce. If you just shine a normal light on them, or you look at them during the day, they are just brown. But you come along, you shine this on them, and they glow like this, believe it or not. It's quite fascinating. But this is the power of UV light anyway. So I'm going to show you a halibut lure, for instance, that I also use. This is the guy here, right? In Norway, if you boat fish, you will notice that a lot of the lures, indeed most of them, they're not very flashy at all. There's a lot of painted jigs and there's a lot of this type of thing here. And that's because the fish just can't see them in the deep water. So this is where this guy comes in. Absolutely brilliant. You're going to see this guy glow up now as well. There you go. Even his body is fluorescent a little bit as well. But mostly the tail and the head. But they can see that as well. There is nothing to reflect the light back off. This is not metal. It is in actual fact fluorescing as well. Okay? You can see some higher points up the top here with more of this UV reactive silicone in it. Okay? And the mixtures become different throughout the batches you get. Some are better than others. So if you have one of these torches, you could pick the nicer lures that day, the night before or whatever. Or just lovely. This is just an orange paint here as well. It doesn't look particularly good, right? I just did this just to make a point, right? There are compounds out there that are in paints regardless, just like that cheap lure I showed you, that fluoresce anyway. So when I go into a tackle shop and I'm scraping the bottom of the barrel and I've run out of jigs and everything else, and I need to locate something that will fish for me and I don't have to pay a lot of money for it, I will bring this, right? This is a little tiny UV light, okay? And I'll just shine it over the jigs and I'll pick out the best ones there as a bunch. It is very rare. Only designers do this, and it's something that I have done myself. I have created a lure for all occasions, shall we say. And I'm going to show you how to make them, how to stamp them, how to paint them in a video upcoming, okay? But I just need to get this video out of the way. I think it can help a lot of people catch more fish. After I show you the lures, I'm going to talk about assists as well, because that's actually a big deal as well. This is one of my jigs now, okay? I've got quite proficient at stamping and painting them. This is one of the first efforts, right? I'm not going to turn off the lights anymore. I made my point. You can see with this guy here. So I just, right. You can see where I'm coming from, right? So this one has got flash and it's got fluorescence in it, right? And it's got a bit of realism. I've painted it two-tone like a fish, right? Dark up the top, light down the bottom. Yes, that lure will fish in deep water and shallow water on a grey day and a sunny day. So you don't need to make so many choices in your life, right? I have also created a lure. It's slightly bit different. This one is not as realistic looking as that other one. It's got more flash to it. If that's something that you need, and perhaps you want to fish like deep and shallow, and for smaller fish and bigger fish, this is, I don't know. It's just something I came up with anyway. It's definitely not going to hurt the whole situation. If you need a little bit more flash and you need a little bit more, yes, that's it. Highly visible. Fantastic thing. Okay. Lovely. Right, so now on to assists, right? So I have heard it said from other YouTubers that fishing flash in deep water was pointless. I call foul, brothers and sisters, and this is why. If you have a jig like this, for instance, and it doesn't have any UV properties, you can put flash on it and fish it in deep water. Yes, you can. And I will explain why. Because not all flash is flash, right? If you got one of these guys, you can find the stuff you need, right? This is orange flash, right? And it glitters during the daytime, right? But guess what? When it gets down into deep water, it glows, okay? I also have green, okay? I'm going to show you this in the dark as well, just to make a point, just in case it doesn't come out too well on the camera. So there you go, right? Lovely. UV flash, yes. That's it. So you can fish flash in deep water and it will have effect, especially if you're fishing a non-reactive jig. So you can actually tie UV assists, right? Which is something that I fish all of the time. So this is one pair of twin assists that I use and I've tied myself. This one doesn't have any flash on it because it doesn't need it. It still is UV reactive. It all helps, right? It all helps. It's as simple as that. But the reason why I haven't put any flash on it is because this is for ultimate distance. And I don't want the flash interfering with the distance of the casting, okay? It's just to cut down and drag. So I'll demonstrate that as well. Woo! That's a good effect. There you go. Okay? Simple. So don't believe everything that so-called experts tell you, right? Think for yourself. Try some experiments. Maybe I'll do a video on the coating on the jig heads as well. This is it here. Yeah. I have a green pigment here as well that I use for jig heads as well. It glows fantastically in deep water. Fantastic stuff. I mean, there's so many products out there that we should make avail of, right? But some of them, like I said, are just stuff that you can pick up in any hardware store, like this paint here, right? It's just normal paint, right? But for some reason, it fluoresces under UV light. So that's it. I'm Billy. This is Billy showing you stuff wherever you are in the world. Remember, I'll see you on the beach. Bye.